Welcome to this presentation on BlueWorx Support Pack 10. I'm Craig Bennett and I'm the Product Development Manager for BlueWorx at ZAG. I'm joined today by Carl McGowan. A lot of you will know Carl as he's been involved with the majority of the pre-sales engagements for BlueWorx and many of the implementation projects. Welcome to the Support Pack 10 release, Carl. I know you're excited about many of the features we're going to cover off.
Yeah, I'm really excited, Craig. A lot of these things you're going to see over the next short period of time are things you've requested. They're things that I've seen you guys ask for, or really are going to make a huge difference to the product. So let's get into it, Craig. I'm really excited.
Excellent. Okay, so our target audience of this session is customers and partners that already have a working knowledge of BlueWorx. So we're going to move through it at a reasonable pace because it's all about the new and improved rather than a teaching video. But if you are new to BlueWorx, then I hope you gain some insights into the solution and some of the focus areas that we're working on to improve the product further. We'll start by recapping on the roadmap just to introduce that topic, and then we'll work through some areas. We've got over 100 improvements and 14 new features in this release, so that's too many to meaningfully cover off in a video session. But they're all documented and they're in our release notes and in the online documentation for you to go and have an explore with. In the description section of this video, there's quick links to the main agenda topics that you can see on the screen at the moment. As we move through, I'll be demoing those items that have a green header, and I'll be talking through the other ones to give you a feel. So the roadmap that we have is the key driver for what we release in each of our support packs. It's derived from a combination of our own design thinking and from a lot of requests from you, the customer. These get reviewed and prioritized for delivery based upon the strategic direction of where we want to take BlueWorx and the assessed value to our customer base. And over time, the customer involvement and direction is certainly increasing. Sometimes within a release cycle, other items get added to the list, and sometimes items in the list get reprioritized for future releases or overtaken by the improvements that we've made in a release or can see coming in future. So that's a little highlight on the roadmap. So the first item that I'm just going to talk about is reasonably simple to explain. Prior to this release, every time you synced from BlueWorx to SAP, we would refresh all the order and notification details. In other words, we would download everything on every order every single time, whether you were doing a full sync or a delta sync. And for those of you with a large list of orders and notifications, that could take some time, and of course it's using up valuable resources. As of Support Pack 10, we've moved to delta synchronization of notifications and orders, and only those that have been changed since the last time you synced are brought down to the device. So that improves the sync speed for that particular step quite considerably. And we're pretty excited about this feature, not only because it speeds up the sync time, but because it also sets us up for some potential future developments using on-demand notification and order retrieval. Carl, anything on that?
This is a key feature. Yes, we often see a lot of our customers, this is the most time-consuming part of the sync. What we're also seeing is a number of customers saying that they want to bring down a slightly larger group of notifications because they want to see what else is open for a particular asset. These notifications almost never change. They're there for historical purposes often, and the only time they'll change is when they get closed out. So really useful and going to make a big difference for a number of our key customers.
Okay, on to the next one. This is quite a big one. In fact, this is probably the biggest single topic for this release. It's a bit of a game changer, we think. What it's about is it's allowing the user, when you're online, to download the details of any functional location or equipment to their device on demand. It does an authorization check prior to the record download, so that's the search is limited to the maintenance plants that users have in their profiles, and then the actual download of the details is using standard SAP auth checks. We've integrated this into a number of places within BlueWorx, and I'll demonstrate those in three main areas. The first is a search by description and reference. The second is using SAP spatial searching, which is pretty cool. And the third is searching Esri layer information and then retrieving the linked asset record from SAP. I'll just switch over to BlueWorx and we'll take a look at this. So this is a little bit of an updated UI. It comes with a later Fiori release, and this is the release that we're moving to. And I'm going to go into the assets area, look at assets. If I search in the normal way and look for Ford, I find a lot of streets, but I'm not actually finding the vehicle. So there's a few streets on there, no vehicles, and I'm actually looking for a Ford car. So if I come into this new search area, highlighted with the SAP icon, I can see a search SAP for asset. I have a number of search options. In this case, I'm going to search for the description for Ford. Search online. So that's communicating back to SAP, and it's doing effectively a star search, as you'll be familiar with from the SAP GUI use, and it's found a heck of a lot of Fords in there as well, including signs, etc. So what I'll do is I'll just go and trim that list by searching for fleet. Do the search again. And now I've got a much reduced list, and it's just my vehicles. I can search more particularly using any of these other search criteria. So if I choose technical ID, for example, and MF, then it's found all of the equipment in this case that have a technical ID with MF in it. And you'll see that the search results has actually changed the column so that you're seeing the search criteria displayed there as well for you to select from. I'm going to select this item here, number 75, and you'll see it's retrieving asset data. So on the fly, that's now gone and retrieved that record back from SAP onto your device. Now the important thing is that's a full record. In some cases with BlueWorx, if you don't have the record associated with a notification or an order, you're not getting all of the classification data, etc. When you retrieve it like this, you get the full record back again. And importantly, you can also refresh an existing record that's on your device through the menu options here, refresh data. So at any stage, if you're connected, you can go and get the full detail of any asset. So that's one way of getting it. Now, if I move across to the structure tab and drill up the structure and move up and across, move back down into another area, it's found a function location that wasn't on my device, it's gone and grabbed it. I can carry on into another function location, it's retrieving that as well, and so on. Another function location. So I can move up and down and across and then into another equipment, and it's just working through that as we go and downloading them on the fly. So that gives some very, very useful functions around retrieving assets on demand. Carl, before I go into the other ways of searching, any comments on this one?
Yeah, we see this being really key to some of our couple of different scenarios. We've got those customers that are always connected. So they may be working in a factory, some of those sorts of things. In those scenarios, we don't need to download all the data at the start. We can just grab it as we need it. So that's a great scenario. The second scenario is for people that are often offline and working in a utility where within an hour's drive, they have 1 million poles. We can't and we don't want to download all those poles, all those cross arms onto the device. And in this scenario, when they're standing in front of the pole, those assets are normally very, very dense when they're in a CBD. So central business district, downtown Sydney is a great example. Downtown Auckland in New Zealand and in other places in the world, in Calgary, you can imagine the ability to just grab those assets on demand in those areas and not having to download them first is hugely beneficial.
So that demonstration was looking for a description or for a reference of an asset that's recorded in SAP, using the technical ID, etc. Sometimes you have items that are identified spatially and you want to be able to find them off a map. It could be above ground or below ground where there is no reference available to find something. So we've now delivered searching spatially from SAP, and that's pretty exciting because this is pre-HANA and the functionality that comes with HANA around spatial searching. So we'll go into our map area, and I'm just going to zoom into, and this is another new item, places, and I'm going to zoom to the Auckland CBD, and there's customers that have asked for this function, so you'll know who you are. So there you go. And I'm now going to go and do a search, and I'm going to search for some street signs and apply that filter. And you can see here I'm searching on SAP. It's retrieving the features and reading them from SAP. And there's a few to retrieve. And there we go. So there's real street signs from across Auckland.
So Craig, these ones weren't on your device, right? That's the key point here.
No, they weren't on the device.
They weren't part of your sync. So your sync was super fast because you had almost nothing in there, and you've just gone and grabbed them in real time.
That's right. And if I select any one of these, I'll select that one. It's found some in close proximity. I can see the sign there. Go and have a look at the equipment. It's retrieving the asset data. And there we go. The equipment record is now back on my device. I could have, from the previous screen, gone and created an order or notification, but it shows you the same functions that's retrieving it from spatial data maintained in SAP. Okay, and so some customers are using Esri rather than SAP for spatial functions, and so I'll show you how we cater for that as well. So the key to this one is that you have to have a shared key between from SAP and your Esri data, and we've got customers that do that. So for example, in Esri, you're recording the SAP equipment number or the function location reference, or some other shared key that you might have in the, say, the inventory field or technical ID or whatever. So we'll come back again into the map. I'm just going to go and clear that filter. Zoom out a little bit, and I've got a layer on at the moment for the Department of Conservation, and so that's under GIS layers, dot tracks. So that's the purple that's displaying on the map. So this is coming in real time from a Esri system, and if I click on one of these, it's got a coastal track there, and we've set up a link to an SAP equipment record. And if I drill down on that, then it's pre-populating the search for me to now use that same stand functionality to go and search for it. It's executed the search, and I can download that record to my device. And there we go. There's the equipment detail for that. So that was 3 ways of getting asset data that wasn't previously on your device to your device when you're ready, and obviously when you're online, and doing it on demand. So I'll let you reflect on that one, Carl.
Yeah, and huge change. It's a change in philosophy from us. Our philosophy up to now was always everything you can do in BlueWorx you can do offline, and we basically treated the application as if it was entirely offline. And this is a change in philosophy, recognizing that connectivity is getting better, and we want to be able to provide this functionality when you're online, or far improved functionality when you're online. It's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. We're seeing a completely different way of deploying the application and how we structure our profiles for those who've used to structuring profiles, so that we're not downloading large amounts of data when we know we're going to have connectivity.
Sure. And I guess the key thing to add to that is that having downloaded it to the device, you can now go offline with this. So it works for where you might have intermittent access. And the key thing there is that any records that you download will survive until your next full sync. So it's not like they're just there temporarily. If you've got an interest in something, it'll survive on your device until the next full sync. Even the Delta updates, if there's been changes to this record, they'll keep coming through until your next full sync. So we've sort of tried to close the loop a little bit, even to the extent, as I said, that you could save this to your favorites and have that available anytime you like. So say you had fleet vehicles that you might have to do a daily check on, you can save those that are in your pool as favorites, and as you go out, you can just download the record and go and do a pre-start check before you take it out, without having to permanently have a whole heap of vehicle records on your device. Okay, let's go and have a look at the next one. In this scenario, what we're doing is allowing you to, or for whatever reason, to park an order or notification. So one of the scenarios to do that is that if you're offline and you find a fault against something but you don't have an asset record for it, then you can park the notification and or order. It doesn't have to be limited to that use case. It could just be that you're sort of drafting something and you don't quite want it ready from your outbox to get to SAP. So anything that you have in park won't go to SAP, won't be removed off your device. It'll only exist on your device. So in this case, I'm going to go through some steps. I'm going to search for an asset and not find it. Then I'm going to create a notification for an asset and park it. Move that through into an order, which is parked, do some updates to that, and then in a simulated environment, we're then back online and we can get to SAP. So I can go and find my asset. I can make the connection to the order. It's going to flow through to the notification. I can release the park, and I'm back into standard functions. Okay, let's have a look at that.
And Craig, I think there's really important point to make it to think about when Craig is going through this demonstration. This fits hand in glove in with the last enhancement you just saw, a last new feature. So now we've got the opportunity to have less data on our device because we can grab it when we're required. What happens in that rare occasion? I haven't got the data on my device and I'm offline. And this enables you to cover that scenario. So when you're watching Craig go through this, think about that scenario. I'm not going to take as much data to my device, maybe a very small subset going forward. What happens when I don't have that data? And this is exactly what you do, the scenario that Craig's now going to walk through.
So in this demonstration, I'm working offline. If I was really offline, I'd have a little indicator on the screen, but we're simulating it in this case. And I want to go and create a notification for a bus stop that's got some graffiti on it. So I'll come into notifications, create a notification, and search for the equipment. Now, the bus stop's on Russell Street, so I'll go and search for Russell. And I'm just searching on my device at this stage. And I get no hits. I do find a reference on it and in the inventory field. Conveniently, it's SP10, so I'll just search for that. Once again, no hits. Okay, so I can't find a piece of equipment for this one. Never mind, I can still go and put some items in there. Still select a work center. And one of the things that we can do that's new is that you'll see a reference field up here. And we can use that to later on initiate searches when we come back online or for whatever reason you would like, not only when you park an order or a notification, but anytime it's in a temporary state. So in other words, it's got a dollar on it. So my technical ID that I had for this, or my inventory item, is SP10. So I'll just save that there for when I'm back online. And I'm going to go and park this notification.
I noticed, Craig, you've got a little barcode sign there. So if you were standing in front of a machine and it had a barcode on it, you could capture it that way, or there's lots of different ways to capture it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do a barcode scan if you're on a mobile device, or you can see there's another button there, add via GPS. So we can just go and take a snapshot of your GPS location. So when you get back online, you can go back to that exact same point. Maybe turn on some of those layers that I just demonstrated, either in SAP or on your Esri system, and go and locate your asset that way. So we're tying deeply into that search functionality that I've just demonstrated. So I've parked this notification, and you can see that it's indicated that it's parked up the top here, and I can carry on and create an order. and create a new order. Bus stop graffiti, some repair. And I'll park the order. Now I have a standard order here. I can go and add operations. I can take photos of the graffiti. I can add time in, do all the other things that I might want to do. So I go and spend a bit of time on this, add some time, for example, save it, but the order itself is nicely parked. Just like the notification, it's up in here.
So the key here, Craig, is clearly you've managed to save that as a park status, and there's mandatory fields missing. So normally the function, location, or equipment is mandatory, and this is a way of assuming creating these orders and notifications without having to fill out all the mandatory fields if you don't know them at the time.
Yeah, so none of the normal checks for either the order or the notification are going to apply. Now we're in the pre-release stage as I demonstrate this. But one of the things that my guys are working on right now and will be in the release product is that reference field that we saw on the previous screen, it will copy through. So it would be like this. SP10 is going to come through. Whatever you copy in the notification, if you create an order off of it, it's going to flow through to there. So time's passed. You've now moved back into an area where you've got coverage and you're ready to actually go and identify that asset. Come into the equipment field again. It's pre-populated that description. I was looking for it from an inventory field. And now I can do my online search. There we go. It's gone and found the equipment that I'm after. I click on it, it's retrieving the data. And it's populated.
So we saw two little things there, Craig. I'm assuming that was it, retrieving the equipment and then retrieving the function location as well, because it needs both.
That's exactly right. Yep. And if I drill down into my notification, after saving that, I can see that it's automatically updated my notification as well, which, it's saving you a bit of time. Go back to my order, and if I now want to go and release it, it's going to say that the associated notification that I'd also parked is also going to be released. Makes sense. We're just trying to cut down the workflow, and that's it. We're back into a normal order now that on next sync will go back to SAP.
And now it's also doing the checks, Craig. So if we head to mandatory fields, it would also do those checks at this point in time now, because you've saved it and go back to SAP.
Yeah, absolutely. And so checks that you might not have maintained either on the order or on the notification could fail, and you've got to go maintain those according to how you've configured it. As I mentioned, the alternative to a reference is to capturing a spatial feature, and you can use that as a lat long or any of the spatial annotations or actions that we have delivered in previous releases. As I said, the intention here is to neatly fit into the on-demand functionality, but it's another tool that allows you to have less requirements to take a lot of assets offline, because we're giving you the tools to make it almost seamless to retrieve the assets on demand when you are connected. Before I move on, anything on that one?
Yeah, I think once again, this combined with the last one we saw around on-demand assets is really the game changer in this release, and we're looking forward to deploying this. There's a number of customers looking to take this on straight away, so we're looking forward to deploying this and seeing how it's used in the real world. But the initial feedback we've got from some of our customers is fantastic.
So the eagle-eyed amongst you might have seen that there's a new icon up the top of the screen, and that gives access to a dashboard menu. And that's really around an effort to more readily surface some of the relevant information and functions that exist. A lot of that's based upon a user feedback. So we're definitely going to go and have a look at that. And the next item is we've made some improvements to the filter functionality that occurs in the order list, notification list, that you can now filter based on text as well as all the other values that are available there, and you can save that filter to readily apply it. Just gives you a little bit more flexibility in the type of filters that you build and save. Go back to my main menu and move across to the dashboard menu. So immediately you can see it's broken down into 4 areas. First, it's pulled the main filters and the filter lists that exist within orders, notifications, assets, and maps. Surface those for you quite quickly. It has an orders section, notification, and quick actions. So looking at the orders list, we can see that we can look at a few different filter options. So we look by date, overdue, current, and future, and that's now aligned across the different areas to have a standard date type format. Priority, pretty self-explanatory, and the type of orders. Having a look at notifications, we've got breakdown, priority, and type. And we can select one of these from our charts and go. It'll automatically take to the notification list and apply that as a filter. We also have some quick actions, so pretty self-explanatory, but the ability to just go straight to create notification or order or timesheet entry. And we'll talk more about the timesheet entry one a little bit later on, because the way that we've sort of delivered that is going to be new to a lot of you.
So Craig, there's a number of our customers have, despite all the functionality we provide, they always add a little bit in. That looks like exactly the right place if they want to add something in under quick actions. That would be a good place to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. So next item is that or next focus area is around order changes, and we've made some consistency improvements, layout and functionality related to orders. So the first one is around the order date and filters and tile display. I did talk about that previously in terms of the overdue, current and future work orders, and we now have that in bar graphs. We're using the same terminology for notifications as well, whereas we had some differences between those two before, and actually also work in the map area as well. So we've made those all consistent. Another change we've made at customer request is that you can now assign multiple notifications to a single work order. So those notifications that might be there that aren't already linked to a work order, you can now go and make the assignment, and that'll flow on through to SAP. And the third item here is that we've improved the layout for the multi-timesheet entry. Now, many of you may not have seen this because it was limited to crew managers before. And so what we've done is we've taken that functionality, and if you're not a crew manager, then we've just limited it to you being able to put time in for yourself and not for others in your crew. But nevertheless, it's a much faster way to do that. So let's go and have a look at that. So I went into an order. I can now add time from here, apply it, and it's going to show me all the operations, and I can simply go and put time in against whichever ones that I want, including the ability to say remaining time or if the operation was complete, and if you're using CATS, the time entry type as well. And those confirmations will be created just like that. You can launch that from the quick action menu. You will have seen that as one of the tiles, in which case the order won't be populated, and you'll just select from the list of orders on your device to be able to go and do that. So a much faster way of being able to enter time rather than having to go into every operation. Any comments on that one, Carl?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this is going to be fairly key. There's a number of customers who've asked for this, so that's going to be great. And looking forward to getting that one out amongst the customers.
Excellent. Okay, so the next area is around notifications and at user request, we've now given the ability to maintain long text for notification codes, so not just at the header level, but in the items, causes, tasks, etc. And I'll demonstrate that shortly. And we've also provided the ability for you to be able to hide some of your notification statuses so that they can't be set on device again at customer request. So I'll just demonstrate that long text. I'll just come into a notification. Have a look at my items down here. And I can see that we now have the ability to maintain long text. Pretty simple ones on those.
And that's really going to drive the reliability processes of a few of our customers who have talked about the fact they are capturing that information out in the field.
Yep. So the next item is on-demand history, application and configuration option. So for measurement points, we now allow you when you're online to be able to go in and take a more detailed look at the measurement point history and to display that graphically. So that's a pretty neat feature, we think, and certainly allows you, if you are connected, to be able to do more meaningful analysis if you're out in the field about, you know, what's going on with a piece of equipment if you're seeing readings above norm. And the other area is around this new admin setting to allow orders and operations to be recorded in measurement documents that haven't been set up in an order PRT. So some customers go to the extent of specifying measurement points in PRTs, but we already have the feature inside BlueWorx that surfaces all the measurement points for all the technical objects in the order. If you switch this on now, then any measurement documents that you create will actually be tagged with the order and operation that they came from.
And the key thing there, Craig, is those are standard SAP fields that have always been there, but always very difficult to populate.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you've got standard SAP reports, that functionality will populate those fields and enable you to understand when people have captured measurements, what order was used to capture them at what point in time, those sorts of things.
Yeah. So let's go and have a look at that measurement point history. I'll go into my assets, have a look at one of my favorites. It's the air conditioning unit. And you can see that there's a number of measurement points there. If I drill into one of them, this is all very familiar turf to many of you, but now there's this option here that appears if you're online. I select that and it's giving me a list of previous measurements. So I can go and get a decent time period on those, and you're seeing left to right the date order for all of those. And if we select some of them, we'll actually highlight them in the list as well down below. Now this will also show where you're using codes, and it takes care of the fact that if you're not using numeric values and you're only using conditional codes, then there'll be no chart. So it flicks back and forth on those for you. And the neat thing is that now you're in there and you're having a look at this particular measurement point for the asset. You may want to flick across to other measurement points for the same asset. And so those are listed on this tab. And if we select one of these, then it's going to go and show me the history for those measurement points as well. So a really great way for you to be able to do some online real-time analysis about historical records for this asset. Carl, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. This is all about putting the information in the hands of the person that can actually do anything about it. The guy or the girl standing in front of the asset, while they're standing in front of it, they can look at this sort of information, see trends, make decisions, fix it at the point in time whilst they're there, rather than collecting information, sending it back to planner or the reliability engineer to do the analysis and then sending them back out, and that hopefully reduces the number of trips to the asset and provides a more reliable asset base.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next sections to talk through, we've got a little bit on inspections here. On this one, we've got no demos, but I'll just talk through some of these. So when we do an update question to a functional location or equipment, we've added a couple more fields that have been requested from you, the customer. It's the manufacturer's part number, and the inventory number. Hard to see how we missed the inventory number previously, but we've delivered it now. And the other thing is that in one of the previous releases, we delivered measurement document warnings that you configure in SAP, errors or warnings where you have gone beyond tolerances. So we delivered that when you did a direct entry for a measurement document against a point. Now we've incorporated that into the inspections. So that same warning or error will occur if you're creating a measurement document based upon an inspection question and not directly. So that just neatly ties it in so that you've got that that full integration through with SAP.
And I think that one's going to be really really important. We've always recommended to all our customers, don't go to measurement points, use inspections. It's a far more intuitive and logical workflow for users out in the field. They don't really care whether it's a measurement point or some other question, but it brings them that additional functionality so they don't have to make any compromises if they do want to use inspections over the measurement points directly.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. Let's take a look at the next item. So we've got a new configuration option that the notification templates. So these are where you are answering questions which, based upon given responses, silently create notifications in SAP when they process the inspection results. Customers have requested that they be able to assign a default subject code to those, so that's now been delivered. And we've also added an inspection group title to the BlueWorx question screen. Again, it's another one that customers have asked for, and this is one that demonstrates quite well, so I'll just go into that now.
And why are you finding that, Craig? I mean, this was brought up by one of the customers I worked with quite a bit, this requirement. There's some customers out there, some really complex inspections now. There are lots of questions, hundreds of questions in an inspection. And many of the questions are repeated for maybe different components of an asset. And putting the group there just makes it far more intuitive for the average user as you guys start using this the inspection functionality more and more.
Sure. And I'm going to have a look at this street lamp item. Have a look at one of the inspections that's against it. There's an inspection here. And you can see that we've got different groups that have been configured. And that now, as we move through the groups, I'll take this question at the end of the first group, that the group description is there. And as I move to the next question, the next group description is there. So, for example, if you had a vehicle inspection where you're doing the exterior and the interior and the engine bay, etc., and you're grouping them in those ways, or more complex areas of operations, you're still getting the context of where you're asking the question. Very simple one, very simple for us to deliver, but hopefully adds the value that the customers have asked for on that one. So the next items to talk through is restricting the inspection date answers. So where you configure a date type response in an inspection question, we can now default the value to today's date if you want to, and prohibit the entry of future days. So that's been asked for by some customers, just to be able to tweak that sort of a response. The other thing that we now stop doing is prohibiting you from completing an operation if there are outstanding required inspections on the order. So that was some feedback from customers that that was sort of not intuitive. So there's some warnings there, but we no longer stop you from completing it. And lastly on this page is the ability to trigger inspections based upon the user status. So in the configuration for the administrators, you can now set it up so that depending on the equipment or function location user status, you can trigger the inspection.
This one,
on those?
Yeah, this one got brought up by a number of customers who have different inspections as to whether an asset is in service or out of service, or installed or not installed. They have a very different set of processes that you need to run on these assets, and that supports those processes. But I'm sure as customers out there, you'll find equally more and more important ways to use that functionality now it's available. But it's that was what it was originally intended for, and that's what the customer was asking for when we developed it.
Right, so the next areas that we'll have a look at is 3 items around inspections. And the first is that we've delivered a GUI Sub-Screen, and this is optional code for you to implement because you're touching the SAP GUI. And it allows you in the orders, function locations and equipment to have a sub-screen that's available there, and that will show you the related inspections for those objects. And from within it, you can drill through and see the inspection detail. In that area, we've got in the inspection viewer, we can now display the location of a user if that was captured at the time of the inspection, just so that you can analyze that they were in the right position when they were making a response. And the last one is that there's the ability to change an inspection object related to an order. So it's a little bit more complicated, but as I demonstrate it, hopefully that'll make a little bit more sense. So let's go take a look. So I'm just going to pop over to the SAP GUI to begin with, go and have a look at an equipment. And you can see that there's an inspection tab that we've gone and put in there. You may have to change this depending on how many of these tabs you've already used up. That's, for you to technically implement, but we've given you all the tools. And you can see a list of the inspections that have been completed for this object, and we can drill into this. We're now in our inspection viewer. Go and take a look at it. Drill all the way through. We can also move across and into the order. And then under the enhancement tab, we can see any inspections that were done against that order as opposed to over time against that particular equipment or function location. So what we're really trying to do there is to more tightly integrate it so that these inspections become more visible to the asset planners and to others from within the SAP GUI. Carl, thoughts on that one?
Absolutely. This is something that's been interesting. We've got a number of customers who are on S/4HANA already, and for them, the inspection viewer integrates nicely into their existing Fiori launch pads. Those people, we've got more than half our customers are still on ECC, and they're operating almost exclusively out of GUI, and the BlueWorx functionality is really only used on the mobile device. So having this available, hugely beneficial. Those planners, those reliability engineers can see all this information from one place, and it's where they're logically starting from, which is exactly what the intent was when you built it, which is fantastic.
Right, so now I'll go and have a look at this change inspection order object. So I'll come in and I'll actually come through my dashboard this time, have a look at my orders, and I've set up a filter already for an inspection change. Service and inspect. So there's a few use cases for this, but essentially what you're doing is that you've initiated an inspection against an object. Maybe it's one that you had out in the field that you couldn't identify the equipment at the time, so you used a dummy equipment, or it could be that you started and did the inspection against the wrong object. In other words, you identified it incorrectly. You don't want to lose all the inspection data. So you can see that I've got an order and there's an inspection against it. And if I have a look at that, it's in progress, and I've already made some responses against it. If I was to go and change this equipment to another piece of equipment, and I'll just go into the equipment search for a description for another transformer that was in the same location, search those in SAP. You can see that it's done a search within the function location that I was previously in. And so I'm going to go and change this item from one that I had to another one. Just retrieving the asset data. And now here's the clever part. What it's saying is that there was an inspection against the previous object. Would you like to go and update that inspection to the new object that you've selected? You don't have to, but in this case, for the demonstration, I'm going to say yes. And so now it's been updated, and it's giving you the indication there to go and review it. So if I have a look at that inspection now and come into it, it's the updated one there. And you can see that the first response in this one, which was a visual condition grading, has gone from being a completed status to paused. That's because this was against a measurement point, and from one of the previous things that we covered, we want to implement the errors and warnings that exist around measurement points. And so anything that's associated or any responses that you've already made and completed, we're going to go and reset those so that you have to go through and review them and maybe trigger one of those errors and warnings. In addition to that, we go and replace the existing values that were captured on the previous item and update it through to the new one. So that'll trigger any rules or anything else that you've also set up in complex inspections to maybe show and hide some questions that you had. So a little bit of a deeper topic, but this is around fine-tuning inspections and allowing you to actually transition what could be quite a lot of work from one object to another object. You got any comments on that one, Carl?
Yeah, this is another one that fits hand in glove with our bringing down of objects offline. When we're online and parked orders, we've got a number of customers who have a scenario where if they're offline, they want to be able to capture inspection data. And so they do need to be able to capture it while they're offline, and when they come back online, they might then be able to find the correct asset that wasn't on their device at the time. So that's the scenario I see being most common. There are other scenarios, like always, we develop this functionality and we're always amazed and I guess surprised in a pleasant way what our customers do with some of this functionality. So don't just try and apply it the way we think you're going to use it. Apply it to your scenario, and no doubt it will enable your life to be easier as users and administrators of the system.
So let's have a look at the next item. So this one is around the maps area, and the first thing is that we've already covered this, but just reiterating it, that we can now search SAP spatially on demand. So that's quite important. We've also improved the geospatial edit permissions against a user record. So previously there was only the option to allow you to create, change and delete all of the different geo objects, which are annotations, actions and location details. And now we've more precisely set it at a user level so that the administrators can actually set exactly what a user can and can't do. So for example, they may not be able to change the location of an asset, but they may be able to go in and put an annotation against it. And the last item on this one is that we've extended the ability for point, line and polygon layers to be able to have multiple points associated with them. So this is set up in the configuration Previously, we were constrained to just one object, if you like. So if we had a pipe, we could only take it through a series of points from A to B, but we couldn't have any branches coming off of it. So let's go and have a look at this because I think it'll be more understandable when you can see it live. So I'm going to go and have a look at a water pipe. Not sure if it's on my device. Nope, doesn't look like it. Maybe it's in my favorites. Here we go. I'll go and get it from SAP. Here's some map data for it. And if I go and have a look at the map, you can see that instead of it just being one snaking line, that we have offshoots that are coming off it as well. So we've done that for line objects, point objects, and polygons as well, so that you can have more complex features, if you like, instead of just being limited to one object at a time. Any comments on this one, Carl?
Yeah, this is a really common requirement in the electricity and water industry and a few other industries. What we're finding is obviously editing and mastering this data is not trivial. Those of you who may be interested in taking this further, come and have a chat to us about this. There's functionality within SAP GUI Enablement Framework, which helps support this as well, that goes hand in glove. And if you're dealing with this sort of complexity with your GIS systems and SAP systems, we put this all together, and this functionality is actually being used by a number of our customers that have those things all pasted together into one big coherent solution, which is gives them a fantastic user experience.
Excellent. And in this case, we're taking this and taking it offline as well, as we need to.
It extends the standard functionality you get with these with the Israel and the GUI Enablement Framework from SAP, and puts it in the hands of the operator or the technician in the field, which it doesn't provide. There's no other way to do that and achieve that outcome. Okay,
so the next item is just around changes in the crew component. So that's an optional component that some of our customers use, and that's around supervisors that are looking after a number of users within work centres more traditionally. So 3 items in this list. There's a filter option now for the components list that I'm going to demonstrate, so I won't go into that too much in this. The next one is that when we synchronize with SAP and you have crew active to date, it's also gone and taken the capacity information for your work centres, and that's a little bit of calculation that occurs in SAP. Some customers don't actually do their planning in SAP. They use other products to do their planning, so they don't have the requirement to take down this information. So we can now, or you can now optionally turn that off and save yourself a little bit of time. And the third option is that prior to Support Pack 10, you had to perfectly allocate the work. If you were doing split assignments down at an operational level to multiple users, so you had 10 hours, you had to allocate 10 hours. We were forcing you to do that. It was a little bit heavy-handed. We're now allowing you to under-assign it or over-assign it because, yeah, in the real world that happens. So I'll show you the first of these, which is the filter option. It's a pretty simple one to demonstrate. Backing out, having a look in my work, we can see there's a components list here. There's a number of items. So the idea here is that users themselves or supervisors can go in and they can check to see what parts are on order, what status they're at, so that they, can move the work along. So we've added a filter for crew that you can show all the components, or you can just show those for your crew or those that are just for you. If you're a supervisor and you get your hands dirty and doing the work. So if I go to crew, it's trimmed the list down to 2 in this case. I'm just having my work, then we get the whole lot, because I'm working in all of these work centres.
What I really like about BlueWorx and what I hope you guys are seeing as we're going through this process, we're doing some really big things, and Craig attacked those at the beginning, the parked orders, and they're bringing down data offline. Always working at doing lots of small things that make a difference to your life as well, and a lot of these are coming from the user group. Please, if you're watching this and you're thinking, it would be great if we made a small change, it would make a huge difference, but it's actually a fairly simple change. Please send them through to us. This is a great example. Some of these ones we're demoing now towards the end of the session, just little, they are little things, but they make a big difference to users, and happy users are really what we're looking for here, and that's where we're trying to get. So please send them through. We do look at them, we do include them in the product. They're not going to go into a black hole. You'll always get feedback, and a large number of them do end up exactly like this one.
Okay, we're getting near the end, so bear with us. Bit here on administration. So we've saved probably a lot of those looking at this presentation will be administrators as well. So we've done some improvements in there as well. First of those is that we've simplified the way that you now administer orders in operational status configuration, and taking that more into a display list and then editing of details. So you'll see that when you first upgrade, and can go and have a look at that online if you want to have a look at the documentation. We've provided, based upon feedback, the upload and download for Workcenter categories. It was one that we were missing, but it's just a bit of a shout out because one of our customers asked for that one. And we've also added the ability to see a BlueWorx transaction log. So where we are communicating back and forth with SAP and doing update transactions, we've always recorded some of these details in tables within our own namespace in SAP, but we haven't surfaced those until now. So it just gives you a little bit more of an insight into what's going on, and hopefully like what we've done. So we'll take a look at that. So I'm just going to move into the administration app. And you can see that there's a new tile there down here that's transaction logs. And there's a few errors there because this is a development system. So this is a list of all of the items that have come through, and we can look at it graphically as well. So this is another area where we're starting to use more graphics. And we'll change the period. So let's have a look at the whole of the month. And there's a little bit of work that's been going on. I've got a reasonably small team. I'm sure in a production environment that you'll be seeing a lot more activity than this. And if we drill down on one of these items, then we can actually see the transactions that occurred, and we can drill into them and have a look at some of the details.
This is a fantastic development, Craig. I saw this the other day, and I've already showed it to a customer. I know I promised I wouldn't show it to a customer until you had it ready to be released, but I couldn't help myself. One of the customers, their business case has said that they'll create a certain number of work orders and do a certain amount of work through the solution. And they wanted to know how they measure that. How can they present to their senior managers, yeah, people are actually using the solution, and this is what they're using it for. This is what they're doing with it. I showed them this just yesterday, and they said, "Oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what we need to present." So I know you created this for administrators and those sorts of people. There's a customer already excited about this because they want to sell it. They want to show this to some senior managers because this justifies the business case and the investment they've made in BlueWorx.
Excellent. Yeah. So one of the key things that I would highlight here, though, is that the administrator, as we're delivered it, can't go and reprocess this because one of the things that we've been very keen on is that we always push errors back to the end user. And, they're the ones that can go and sort it out if there's been an error in something that they've entered, or get on the phone and get it sorted out. It's not up to the requirement for anyone in the middle to be manipulating transactional data and pushing it on. But it does give you a valuable insight into what's going on. And so you can not only see those transactional volumes, but you can see the details of the transactions that are going through as well. Okay, so that concludes all that we're going to show you for Support Pack 10 for BlueWorx. Sincere thanks for watching. We hope you like what you've seen and that you can see how it can provide value to your operations. Special thanks to our customers who've provided inspiration for many of the new and improved features in this release. We have iterated that all the way through. Hopefully you're seeing that it's real, that we are taking the requirements on board and also adding our own, or continuing to add our own innovations and actually thinking outside of the box and pushing the boundaries in some of these areas, delivering some features that I'm pretty certain are not available in any other solutions that are in the marketplace. Before I pass over to Carl to wrap up, if you're wanting further information, it's available on the BlueWorx support site. You can go in there. There's been a number of updates to the functionality that's outlined there, and the release notes, which will be out about the same time as this video, will give you a list that you can go through and review in detail how to set some of these functions up and the new options, etc. So last word is for you, Carl.
Awesome, thanks, Craig. It's amazing. You and your team have done an awesome job over the last 6 months putting all this together. For any of the customers out there that are looking at this, if you're looking for some assistance in getting to this version, obviously reach out to myself or a ZAG representative. We'll be more than happy to help you understand how you make the transition and when that should be done, and also to spend a bit more time going through some of the more detailed aspects of this if you do need some more detail. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Till next time.